But I got a Korean friend, I got Vietnamese friends, I got Filipino friends, I got you name it. Asians are pretty diverse. But a lot of them have told me that they've never had Cambodian food before, which is interesting because like we're neighbors, like Vietnam is right next to us, Thai is right next to us, and yet we haven't. Most of them, I've had plenty of Thai food and Vietnamese food and everyone's types of foods, but a lot of them have told me that not a lot of them actually had Cambodian food.
Welcome to Proudly Asian, a podcast series that tells bold and proud stories of Asians by Asians. I'm Isabel Wong, a financial journalist who wants to uncover the many Asian stories around us that are waiting to be told. There's never just one way to look at Asians. This podcast will take you through a deep dive into the life stories, struggles, and triumphs of young Asians around the world. On today's episode, we have Johnny Chom, the founder of juice bar Sweetgrass Sugarcane Juice and Cambodian caterer The Golden Skewer. Born and raised in LA, Johnny is the son of Cambodian refugees. He joins us to talk about his entrepreneurial journey, the representation of Cambodian cuisine, and what we can learn about Cambodian culture through its food. Welcome back to Proudly Asian, continuing our very special limited series of Proudly Asian Food Month. This week, we are talking all things Cambodian cuisine, and I'm so glad to be welcoming in Johnny, who is joining us from Long Beach, California. Welcome to Proudly Asian, Johnny. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, great to have you, and I know it's pretty early in the morning for you, so thanks so much for making the time for us. So before we get into the business that you're currently running, your ventures, for our listeners to know a little bit more about you, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Who are you? What are you? And where did you grow up?
My name is Johnny. I grew up in Long Beach, California. Usually that's kind of the capital of where Cambodians are in America here. I think Long Beach is known for being the most populous place other than Cambodia for Cambodians. So most of us are here. I own a couple businesses, a couple startups, mostly known for Sweetgrass, which I started during the pandemic. Sweetgrass is a fresh sugarcane juice concept, and currently I own a storefront for that. And then off of that, I started another Cambodian food concept, which is called the Golden Skewer, and we serve lemongrass beef skewers as our main product that we sell, and then I have a couple other startups. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do so far right now.
Amazing. So you're a serial entrepreneur in the F&B space in California. But just to get a little bit more of your experience growing up in California as a Cambodian kid, tell us a little bit more about what it was really like growing up for you, and what was breakfast like for you?
Well, we didn't have much of an American breakfast. I actually did enjoy that, but breakfast, lunch and dinner is all the same.
What are they?
Like noodles, oodles and noodles. That's pretty much what I've lived off of from a kid all the way up to college, So oodles of noodles. I don't think I can go without noodles. But growing up in Long Beach, I think most of my peers could agree. It was for our parents, it was a bit of a culture shock. Most of our parents immigrated here from refugee status, so it wasn't really like a choice for us to come out here. We were seeking refuge as far as my parents go. So growing up, we spoke English, and a lot of my peers have this issue as well, where we're just a bit of a language barrier between our parents and us as well. So I was 10 years old reading government documents from my mom, trying to translate that shit. So it's yeah, it was just a lot of us kind of raised ourselves, really, traditional, trying to stay traditional, but then also assimilate to American culture. So it's still to this day, it's still a bit of a lot of conflict between those two, and yeah, it was. I'm sure a lot of immigrants can probably attest to that as well.
For sure. And if you don't mind me asking, what was your parents' immigration journey? How did they eventually end up in America? And when they arrived, what was it that they did? Were they kind of in food business or were they doing something completely different?
Completely different. I mean, the trek of Cambodians to America, you probably hear the story of life. You know anything about Cambodians? There was a genocide that happened in the 70s. I want to say 90% of us probably escaped that war. So like when my parents, like my grandma and my mom made it out, and my dad made it out here, leaving behind pretty much all of their family. They all got split up during the time where communists came over and took over the country, and so my grandma didn't even get a chance to even grab any of the other kids. She was just out shopping with my mom, and so they just got pushed into like a camp, and it was just a crazy story. I mean, my mom and my grandma probably went through some stuff that no human should ever go through. You know, from starvation, from forced labor, from pretty much trying to survive. Pretty traumatic stuff. I know a lot of older Cambodian people here probably have a lot of untreated trauma from the shit that they saw during that war, and so a lot of us, a lot of the kids, and a lot of like my peers, we deal with a lot of the intergenerational trauma. But for me to still be here and push through and break through, it means a lot for me, and it means a lot for me to break through than it could mean for most people in my humble opinion, because of what my people went through and what my parents went through and the type of stuff that I went through as well. So yeah, it's a crazy story.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has still untold. A lot of them don't like to talk about it because it does bring up like traumatic experiences, and so a lot of people just ignore it. But in at to a fault, they have a lot of untreated trauma that they'll probably just go to the grave with, and it's up to me to break that cycle.
Yep.
That's where I'm at right now.
I can imagine for a lot of Cambodian Americans or even Asian American communities that also came from kind of like a whole or a few generations of survivors full of resilience. So now they're out there doing amazing things like yourself.
Like you said, it resilient.
Yep.
Like I think that's kind of the word that describes us. Like it kind of fits us the best is being resilient, and
For sure.
that's carried me into my business as well. Just because nothing was ever easy for me, and like I didn't really have any like mentors starting this business and stuff. So, but my resilience and my grit pulled me through, and having that characteristic had carried me to this point right now.
And just a quick follow up about you growing up Cambodian American, like as a kid, did your family make sure that you were also connected with your Cambodian heritage? Or did you ever have any questions around whether you were like Cambodian, American, that kind of identity confusion?
Confusion is the right word. I mean, like, yeah, we did a lot of traditional things too. I mean, we stay connected with our culture, my mom and my parents and stuff. But growing up was pretty confusing as well because, like I said, there was that language barrier. It was hard to communicate in deeper terms. Like I knew how to communicate, but we didn't really understand like truly our identity, So like, I think a lot of us kind of grew up in the streets, or like grew up in public schools and learning from that. And so I think it wasn't until I got a little older that I started to understand like who I am, what's my identity, how we got here. And so I did travel to Cambodia recently. I wish I would have did it earlier. After touching down in, homegrown soil, it really kind of clicked with me where my parents had came from and what their trek was. And so having a deeper understanding with that gave me like a better understanding of my identity and why I shouldn't like why I should when I came back to America, it gave me an understanding of like how much opportunity I really do have, and so I didn't want to squander those opportunities, and so kind of lit a fire up my butt. And at that point on, I mean, your parents always tell you like, oh yeah, yes, you're so lucky this, back in my country, we used to walk to school or whatever, whatever those funny stories are and stuff. And you don't really like what's the word? You don't really
Like appreciate.
yeah. The stories mean a lot more when you actually go back there and see, those dirt roads and things like that.
Was it your first time in Cambodia?
Yeah. It was my first time in Cambodia. Yeah. And then, when you're in a country where everybody's speaking Khmer, you kind of force yourself to to just speak Khmer, the language. And so I got a little bit better too. So, when I got back here as well, I tried to practice a little bit more, and because unfortunately and pessimistically, I think in a couple more years, the language will be forgotten. And so I try my best, and at least to the best of my abilities, to practice it as much as I can. And I actually do that with a lot of customers too, because I do have a sugarcane shop in Long Beach. And so a lot of old folks, they do come by, and because it does remind them of home or whatnot. And I do speak to them in my language, and they're like usually surprised, like, oh wow, he's I speak pretty well. I can enunciate, and I sound like I'm really from Cambodia. Some of them ask me too, like, oh, when did you immigrate from Cambodia to America? I'm like, oh, actually, I was born out here. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you speak good, but yeah, I'm trying to sharpen it a little, 0.5% every time, 1% every time.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, like growing up, did you ever have any moments where, like, it's kind of like experiencing a little bit of lunch shaming? Let's say if your mom packed food that wasn't like what American
Right.
food would look like to other kids, right?
I went to Poly High School, which had a lot of Cambodians, so I didn't really get much lunch shaming. But if there was any, it's usually probably like the fish sauce. Some people can't really deal with it, and that's kind of like our traditional dipping sauce, which is the fish sauce. But for the most part, no, I didn't experience that. Like I said, like the city is full of Cambodian. I think Long Beach, great part about growing up in Long Beach is very diverse, and everybody kind of gets, well, for the most part, most people get along. But if they don't get along, at least kind of people respect our differences, and they understand, and so yeah, I didn't really get too much of that. I mean, of course you do. But those people didn't matter anyways. Anybody who was hating or whatever, their opinion doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly understand a little bit more about Cambodian cuisine, because for our international listeners who might not have as much knowledge about what Cambodian cuisine really is, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about what really is Cambodian food. What are the common dishes and ingredients used in the cuisine?
That's a good question, because like I feel like we're probably the most underrepresented group. I mean, Asians are already kind of a marginalized group, and then we're like kind of an invisible group underneath in a marginalized group. When it comes to Southeast Asia, you hear about Thai, you hear about Vietnamese food, Filipino food, but you don't really hear much about Cambodian food. I mean, in a sense, a lot of it is pretty similar. A lot of us use fish sauce. A lot of us use the same ingredients, obviously, because of the region that we're from. But there are a couple differences that I feel like does separate us from the rest. One of it, just to highlight, a very distinctive flavor that we use is something called krung, which is like a lemongrass paste. Obviously, it has all the other spices as well, like galangal, there's ginger, there's garlic and things like that. But there's something called krung that we use, and it's a lemongrass paste that gets used in a lot of soups and a lot of marinades. If there's one thing that I'd recommend for anybody, if you ever run into a Cambodian restaurant, is our lemongrass beef skewers, which is very unique. Because I don't think, as far as I don't think anybody else uses that ingredient for their beef sticks or their beef skewers. But that's kind of how I got started with the golden skewers, because I thought it was a very unique flavor. And not only that, it's a pretty palatable flavor for most people to taste. And so it's not, obviously in some Asian cuisines, you got your stinky stuff, you got your fermented stuff and things like that. And the beef skewers, I thought, was the most translatable flavor to the American tongue, or just the international tongue, if you will. And it's kind of self-explanatory. It's meat on a stick, but the flavor really pulls through with the lemongrass. And the great part about that is it's not easy to make. And so if I ever showed you like a video of me making the lemongrass beef sticks, you'd probably say, man, that's a whole lot of work. I probably don't want to do that. But if somebody had made that for me, you'd probably really appreciate it. So there's a lot of value. There's a lot of hard work and execution in that dish that most people don't understand, and unless you actually see how it's made. So we currently operate the golden skewer out of LA right now. And whenever we're cooking it, people do come back and say like, "Man, this is, I've never." They can't quite put their finger on what it is that they're tasting, but they know they like it. Yeah. So that business is kind of on the up and up right now. It's starting to get really popular, and so we're just showcasing it on a big stage right now at a place called Smorgasburg, LA, which is a huge market, international market. People travel from all over the world to go there, and we're able to showcase one of our best dishes, the most palatable dish. That's what we chose to put in the forefront to showcase Cambodian food.
So, of course, there are some Cambodian dishes, like you mentioned, the beef dish, that would be a little bit easier for people who are just starting to have this introduction to Cambodian cuisines, right? But what are the dishes that are close to your heart? Or like, does Cambodia have a national dish? Because in Myanmar, they would have a national dish like mohinga, or like in Laos, they would have lab. Then what is the national dish of Cambodia?
The national dish. I mean, I think like officially it's like this thing called fish amok, which I don't really eat too often. But if you would ask me what I would make it, shoot, I don't know, a million things are coming to my head right now, but like I'm just gonna say whatever is off the top of my head.
Okay.
It's something called prahok, which is kind of like a steak sauce. I think we're the only ones that make that, so yeah, I would say that. It's like a steak sauce that's made with like anchovies and olives and a bunch of other things. Like I don't think I'm going to rattle that off right now, but it's really good. Every family makes it differently as well, which is kind of cool. Obviously everybody's gonna say their family makes it the best, but my family makes it the best. Um, but that's why there's so much opportunity there too, because everybody makes it so different. I feel like there's a lot of room for like if somebody wanted to open up a concept or like a restaurant or whatnot, um, with these things you can do it multiple times because since everybody does it so differently. But unfortunately, kind of putting on my pessimistic lens on, not a lot of people, a lot of my peers really want to get into the industry. I'm not really sure why. Because there's so much opportunity and there's so much to showcase with our foods, but I haven't seen too many people doing it. And so like it's not like I'm like in love with the restaurant industry. I kind of don't even like being in the kitchen that much. I like to eat though, but I like the branding part. That's the stuff I love, but I just don't like being in the kitchen. But back to the point was not a lot of my peers are actually getting into the space of like pushing out Cambodian food, and that's where I saw the opportunity to showcase this, and it's gone really, really well. It's new.
But at least through you, people have a way in to be introduced to Cambodian flavors. And since we're talking about Cambodian flavors, I have a quick follow-up question for you. Like, what is the usual flavor profile of Cambodian dishes? Is it like spicy? Is it a little sour? You mentioned fish sauce. So what does it normally taste like?
I mean, hard to define because our dishes are so diverse and so damn, I'm not finding the right word for this, but it's so versatile. We have spicy, there's umami, there's fermentation, there's sweet, there's sour. There's so many dishes that needs to be showcased that everybody's kind of taking it to the grave with them because a lot of like I wish, my late grandma, I wish I would have sat there and just learned all of her recipes because God bless her. So I didn't. It's really hard for her to explain it to me, like concepts and methods of how to cook it. And that's why it was really difficult to get recipes from her. But I got a couple of them. But it's so complex, and it's because Southeast Asia as well has so many different spices, and it's so there's just so many things hitting your tongue. It's hard to define it because everything is just everything has its highlights. All the way from our soups, we have like a million different soups that are just and every single one of them are really good. I mean, you've heard of pho, you've heard of, boat noodles and all these other types of soups and noodles. But if you know, then you know that Cambodians have, and I can say maybe like 8 solid soups that none of these restaurants are selling, and they're only making it as a home cooked meal. So if you have any Cambodian friends or some somebody's Cambodian parents, go over their house and you'll find out real soon.
Wow, wow. And I'm curious, like, are there actually like any key festivals or occasions observed by Cambodian people or like Cambodian Americans? And do you guys have any sort of festive foods where you only make during those special occasions?
Yeah, I think the beef skewers are one of them because like it needs to be cooked over charcoal. And so when and obviously that has to be cooked outside. And so when you're cooking it outside, you're like, just grilling it, and when you're driving past In and Out, it usually what gets you is the smell of the grilled onions, and then you just pull in right away, But with the smells of the charcoal grilled skewers, it just pulls you in, like one of those little those Looney Tune cartoons where the little smoke finger goes around and just tap you in the nose. Yeah, that's kind of what that is. We also have this other concept that we're selling with the golden skewers is coconut corn, and so that's also unique to Cambodian food as well because I think we're the only ones that do that. So we have this sweet and salted caramelized coconut corn. Obviously, coconuts are plentiful in Southeast Asia, and so we've kind of mastered different ways to use coconut. I'll tell you right now that not a single restaurant sells that except us, and so that's kind of the only way to have it is through us, and we sell it and we grill it outdoors, and so that's something that's cooked whenever like our family comes over. We have a little charcoal grill and we grill that. Um, what other is I mean, you have Khmer street food. There's plenty of bananas in Southeast Asia. So we have fried plantains, fried bananas that are like sesame coated. Those are really good. Those have a nice little texture to them as well. Bananas obviously like a little sweeter, and so you have like a really well balanced plate of like sweet, yet salted, yet umami. We have kimchi is getting a lot of a notoriety for its fermented veggies, as far as the fermented veggies goes, and we have our own fermented veggies too. It's called churro, which is there's daikons, there's young papaya, there's carrots, cucumbers, and a bunch of other veggies. Different families use different recipes, but that's also really good too. And I think it's just as good as kimchi when it comes to having it as a side for your proteins. That's something that's really good as well. That somebody out there wants to start a company jarring those bad boys up. Like, there's opportunity there too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just gave us a lot of amazing food business ideas that
Yeah.
could celebrate the Cambodian culture.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you mentioned, Cambodian cultures or like food are so underrepresented anywhere, not just in America. I'm wondering if there are any like common misconceptions about Cambodian food. Like, would people normally make some observations or comments about Cambodian food that aren't really so accurate? Have you heard any comments like that?
Well, it's really tough to say because nobody ever talks about our food in the first place.
Exactly.
It's just kind of weird because recently, but I've had this conversation a lot recently with my other Asian friends. But I got a Korean friend, I got Vietnamese friends, I got Filipino friends, I got you name it. Asians are pretty diverse, but a lot of them have told me that they've never had Cambodian food before, which is interesting because like we're neighbors, like Vietnam is right next to us, Thai is right next to us, and yet we haven't. Most of them, I've had plenty of Thai food and Vietnamese food and everyone's types of foods, but a lot of them have told me that not a lot of them actually had Cambodian food, and just another observation is interesting because I don't want to generalize, but in America, Asians are just Asians. We're all lumped into one group, and so people think, or at least the unaware or the uneducated. Or I don't want to use the word educated; that's kind of mean, but like for lack of a better term, the unaware lump us all into one group, and Asians are just Asians, and yet here I am sitting here with my Korean friend and with my Vietnamese friend, and they don't know much about our food. Let alone an outsider or somebody who isn't Asian, thinking that we all know Asians are just Asians, but we're just so culturally diverse, more than people know. And so that brings me back to the point. There's not really much misconceptions when people don't even have a conception of what we do in the first place, I guess so. I guess just to make a point for that one, I do watch some videos of people traveling to Cambodia and stuff like that. You got like some certain videos where like people are looking for the most outrageous foods that you can find. They're looking for scorpions and all these other weird stuff. And so like I guess some people think like, oh, those guys are savages. Like they're eating out here eating scorpion, then like I don't know, whatever the heck they're looking for. And I've never eaten a scorpion myself, or tarantulas or all these weird things, like even my mom doesn't eat that kind of stuff. Even when she was in Cambodia, she didn't eat that kind of stuff. So it's like, I guess that's the most weird misconception is that like, people's first, people living in the Midwest or whatnot, or wherever it might be, they're watching these videos of like bizarre foods in Cambodia and stuff like that. And like thinking that's what we eat, but it's really not.
Hmm.
But I mean, I'm not shaming that kind of stuff either. There's different regions, different circumstances and things like that. So people will find a way to make the best out of their situation, and that's with a lot of Asians. They're really good at doing that. Um, yeah, just a little. I mean, like even this the story of how pho came to be was those bones were just given to them uh as scraps, and so they turned lemons into lemonade, and then now pho is just one of the most regarded cuisines in Vietnamese food.
Yeah, you raised a really good point. It's like
Yeah, yeah,
Cambodian food is so underrepresented to
yeah.
the point that there aren't even misconceptions about them.
This is a challenge to everybody. Y'all need to start stepping up and start
Yeah.
showcasing some of this food.
For sure. Just like last year when we did Proudly Asian Foods Month, we actually talked to a Lao American chef, and then he was telling us about how there's still not much understanding about like Lao food. And traditionally in America, Lao cooks would work at Thai restaurants. So sometimes some secret Thai cuisines would be kind of embedded in that
Yeah,
Thai restaurants' menus as well.
it's weird because like there's some really good Lao food out there, but because most people don't know what Lao food is, they label themselves as Thai Lao, and so just the word Thai alone will get people to come through the door. Like, oh, we want let's get some Thai food, but really it's like Lao food.
Hmm.
Same thing for Cambodian food too. There's like some places in LA where it's called Chinese Cambodian food, and so the word Chinese it's more familiarized with most people, and so that's the only way to get people through the doors.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the business that you started. You started Sweetgrass Sugarcane Juice around during the pandemic. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what sugarcane juice is and why you decided to start this business?
I started this during the pandemic. I got laid off from my job, and I was just sitting here in my boxers, sleeping until like 1, 2 p.m. Thinking about what the hell I'm gonna do with myself. And I've always thought to myself like, damn, like I know I'm so capable, and I have a lot to give, and yet I'm not showing it. It's not coming out. I got nothing to show for it. And so like, sometimes you sit around with your friends and you talk about these great ideas. Like, oh, this would be a great idea, or this would be, this, would be a great idea. And yet when you leave, it just becomes a pipe dream. Nobody ever executes, right? I think during the pandemic and during my layoff, I spent a lot of time at my friend's house for partying every single day. I kind of went down a really bad little spiral, where we were partying and drinking and doing all this stuff. And one day I was like, damn, like every day I'm sitting here drinking and partying. Why don't I fucking step aside and really say what I'm gonna do? And so I told everybody that I'm not gonna talk anymore. I'm just gonna execute. And my friends are very supportive and stuff like that, but they don't really know what you're really capable of until you actually show it. So when I decided to like not come over as much, not show up as much, and be a little more absent, they're like, oh, I guess he was really serious. And so I started designing stuff, and as soon as I kind of debuted it, everybody was like, oh, this guy's serious. And so they started to support me and like was there for me, whatever I needed to just see if this guy's the truth or not, if he really meant it. And little by little, I started to gain their conviction, my conviction. And so I started this thing out of my apartment, and I designed a really like dope logo. I'm really proud of the logo, and it looked really professional. And so I started taking like these photos of some of the drinks. I started making these stickers, and started taking some really good looking photos, and I started, we posted them online, and people actually thought it was a real restaurant. So like, I'd post the photos, and people would order through my DMs on Instagram. And there was a skate park that we used to sell at, and so like, and then my friend owned the house in the corner right there, and so we would sell it out of the backyard, and people would pull up to the skate park like, hey, I'm here at the address. It doesn't look like there's any stores here or whatever. And I'd come out the backyard with a bunch of drinks and be like, oh. And then they tell me like, oh, wow, like the way you marketed it, or the way I had posted online, the way I had presented it, seemed like it was like, oh, a new sugarcane juice shop would open up, and everybody was all excited and stuff, and that's how it all started. So I've always viewed, like, even from the beginning, that I knew where I was gonna be at, and I wanted it to be legit and look like it was a real, like a real concept. That's how I viewed it. I saw the end in mind, and I treated it as a real professional business. And so it just took me some reverse engineering on how to get there. And um, so yeah, I started on my backyard. I grew a following there, and then I saved every penny that I had, and I put it into a juice truck, the infamous Sweetgrass juice truck. And then I was in that juice truck for maybe about a little over a year. I saved every penny that I had. I was probably, at that time, like, I was getting a lot of support from my friends and my family. I was people were treating me to food, they were feeding me. I really literally saved every penny to open up this shop. And so, like, my clothes were tattered. I didn't buy any. I sold all my belongings. I was bumming food off of people and things like that. And so, I think from my backyard into the shop, it took me about a year and a half, maybe 2 years to get to this point. So, I really literally turned nothing into something. And then all while racking up credit card debt. I was probably like maybe 15K in credit card debt. I literally started this thing down on my luck. I had $1 in my pocket plus a dream, and I made it out. I did it really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's kind of my story. And I think I've made a lot of people proud. A lot of people in my community have mentioned that to me, and it's a really, like, probably the greatest honor for somebody to tell me that. And so I only hope to inspire, and I only hope to I hope my convictions show that you really can flip the script of your movie at any point in your life, even if you're down your luck, even if you're in debt, even if you're just not mentally in the right space, or you're having mental issues or anything like that. Like, if you can change your mindset, you can really change your trajectory, and it can happen as fast as a blink of an eye.
That's such an inspiring self-made entrepreneurial journey. And I want to understand a little bit more about, like, sugarcane juice as well. It's like, why did you choose sugarcane juice? And tell us a little bit more about the new, more modern sugarcane juice recipes that you created for the brand as well.
So sugarcane juice is pretty prevalent in, like, some certain communities, like the Vietnamese community. They call it Nha. And so currently, right now, I mean, like, there's a lot of ma and pa shops selling sugarcane juice. And when I say modernize and re-innovation, I'm a believer in innovation. And I think because a lot of places that do currently serve sugarcane juice are just like ma and pa shops, I thought that the different angle would be to market it as a new, as you can see, like, I mean, even with these hats, like, I designed these hats myself, and the logo, everything looks more modern. And when you go into a shop, you want to see, like, more modern architecture, or just more modern design, and interior designing and things like that. And so and then not only that, like, a lot of these mom and pop shops, they're not on Instagram, they're not on social media, they're not thinking of those things, obviously. And so that's where I started. I my first drink that I had started was our dragon fruit mixture with sugarcane juice. And so if you if you can pull up a picture of it, you'll see that it's really, like, aesthetically pleasing to look at. I incorporated this effect called the gradient effect, and the dragon fruit, it's layered on top. I use red dragon fruit, and it gets layered on top of the juice, which is yellow. And so, like, as you look at it, it kind of blends into the yellow color. And so it's very, they say you eat with your eyes first.
Mhm.
And so when you look at social media, I started posting this drink, and it caught a lot of people's attentions because it looks really pretty. Obviously, everybody loves to take pictures of their foods. And so when I was selling this dragon fruit, which is one of my first flavors that I sold, people felt inclined to repost it because it looked really pretty. And so, when somebody posted it on their story, somebody's probably going to message them like, where'd you get that from? That looks really pretty. Like, yeah, you get it from this spot, it tastes as good as it looks. So what sugarcane juice is, it's sugarcanes are grown in most tropical regions of the world. It's not as prevalent in here in America, but a lot of people who immigrated here will tell you, like, man, I haven't had this since I was back in the home country. So the concept is that the sugarcane juice is the raw form of sugar. It's not artificial, and so it's has some benefits to it as well. Obviously, it grows from Mother Earth, you know. But we have a cold press machine that we run it through, and it juices out all of the juice inside of the sugarcane. And it when you add ice and any other natural flavoring, natural fruits, it pretty much enhances. If we throw in watermelon, it makes the watermelon taste 3 times better. And it's pretty much a natural way to sweeten things. It's just every item on our menu is really refreshing and it's hydrating, and so it has a lot of staying power as well because we don't use any processed ingredients, and it's vegan. It's all natural, so it checks all the boxes that I thought had a lot of staying power and a lot of what people want to hear as far as like progressive thinking. And so I thought in my mind thinking that it could be the next milk tea boba craze, another alternative option.
But healthier, for sure.
Yeah, it's healthier, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if there were any like challenges when you were trying to introduce the drink to a larger audience, but then seeing how you described, they look so pretty, you know,
Yeah.
for those who are looking for Instagrammable options, then I guess it's probably quite easy to kind of get people's buy-in and get them to try it out, right?
Yeah, the first thing you do is when you observe with your eyes, you know, and then you wonder how it tastes. But yeah, I mean, like, that's why I had to become a master at my craft. Not like I love sugarcane or anything like that. I'm like super passionate about it, but it just, but at anything you do, you have to put your best foot forward. And so I became a master at my craft. I learned everything there is about sugarcane juice. And I think the more conviction you have in what you're trying to explain to people, no matter what you tell them, you know, what's unsaid as well is just, like I said, my conviction had convinced people that it's like the best thing ever. So when people come in, like, what's sugarcane juice? You know, you just got to be really good at explaining it. And so I explain it to them, and my conviction sells the rest. And the only thing left to do is there's only one way to find out if it's good or not. Come here and try it. Yeah. And then once they try it, like, oh wow, you weren't kidding. This is really, really good. It's really refreshing. Yeah.
And before we move on to the next segment, I just want to quickly ask you, you know, what can people really learn about Cambodian culture through its food whenever they get the chance to try it?
Yeah, just the flavors are just gonna smack you left and right. I mean, if you love Thai food, you love Vietnamese food, you love Lao food, you're gonna love Cambodian food. It's kind of in that same realm. We all do things very similar, but if you have a really good tongue, you'll understand the differences. But yeah, there's just too many dishes. If you have a Cambodian friend, go over to their house and have them cook you some food.
Nice, nice. And now it's time for us to move on to the next segment, which is called Rapid Fires. And in this segment, I'll be asking my guests biased questions that they've got asked at some point in life. And in Johnny's case, some biased questions people might have about Cambodian cuisine or culture. So, Johnny, are you ready to answer all the questions?
No, I'm not ready, but go for it.
All right. The first question is, did you get whooped as a child?
Did I get whooped? Hell yeah, I did. I don't know. I don't know if people are doing this today, but I think it was probably good for me because I was a bad kid. Yeah, I got whooped on with probably anything you can find. Sometimes my mom would be like, go grab that tree branch so I can whoop you with it. I'm like, oh shit. I've gotten hit with chopsticks. I've gotten hit with like fly swatters. I've been hit with everything. I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know if this is my generation or something, but like, yeah, we got whooped. We got our ass kicked. I mean, I think
So it wasn't a bias.
no, yeah, I definitely got whooped. Yeah, but yeah.
All right. And the next one is, have you ever owned a donut shop?
That's a good question because most Cambodians, as you know, own all the donut shops in California and beyond. That's a pretty crazy story too. Watch the Donut King documentary. But anyways, yeah, actually we did own a donut shop. My mom, who after my biological father had passed away, whatever money we had, we invested into a business. My mom had the entrepreneurial spirit as well, but we all invested into a donut shop, and I think like 3 weeks in, we got robbed at gunpoint and pretty much lost the business. And so that kind of broke my mom's spirit. And she also started a sweatshop as well that also didn't work out for us as well. that kind of broke her spirit, but that spirit lives on in me, and so she's always around, kind of supporting me as well. But yeah, we did own a donut shop. That's a crazy story, right?
Wow.
Like 3 weeks in, we got robbed
Yeah.
at gunpoint. So it's stupid. I mean, what could have been, Who knows if that could have provided me opportunities, financial opportunities to pursue whatever, my scholarship career. I mean, like, I might have been more of a scholar if I didn't have to worry about working during college days. Who the heck knows?
Exactly.
You know.
And the next question is, did you celebrate Christmas or holidays?
No, we did not. We did not celebrate Christmas until like I was an adult. No, we didn't. I don't know why.
Wow.
Yeah, right. I didn't. I mean, I knew what Christmas was. Celebrated it at school, but when we got home, we never had. I don't think our family even had a Christmas tree until I was like in my 20s.
That's crazy. And yeah, moving on. Did you grow up in gang culture in Long Beach?
Yeah. It was everywhere. I mean, yeah, I grew up on the block. Rose and 14th is where I grew up, and that's all you're kind of exposed to. Obviously I never joined a gang.
And finally, in rapid bias, is Cambodian food more different or the same as other Southeast Asian food?
Yes, it is very different. Only if you have a good tongue and a good palate will you understand the differences. If you don't, it probably tastes the same to you guys. But there is, to someone with a really good palate, there is, yeah.
Thank you for playing this round of rapid bias. Now, for us to wrap up the episode, I'm curious, what have you been up to? What's next for you, Johnny? Tell us about your upcoming ventures and where can our audience who happen to be in California find you?
So you can find me at Sweetgrass Sugarcane Juice, located in Long Beach, in the district of Bixby Knolls. We have a really, really aesthetically pleasing store. If you like good vibes, you like good drinks, you should pull up to my shop. For the Golden Skewer, we don't have a storefront for that yet, but if you're in Los Angeles, downtown LA to be exact, every single Sunday, we do pop-ups there. And let us make some really good grilled food for you. You can find, if you can't find our booth, just follow your nose, you'll find us there. And as far as upcoming projects I do have a couple other startups that don't tell anybody, but I think this might be the next big thing. But I do have this brand of chips. They're made from chili peppers.
Wow.
It's still in the startup phase, but give me some time. As soon as I get the other two to be more self-automated, I'm gonna start working on this third project and many more projects. I mean, I don't know why I'm into food but there's a lot of opportunity there, but I don't know why I'm into food.
You don't even like the kitchen.
I don't even like being in the kitchen, but like, this will probably be my last food idea.
Right.
I think. But anyways, yeah, I got this other pepper chip, cowboy pepper chips. Remember that name. You'll hear about it very soon. Maybe don't doubt that I won't be on the shelves of Costco's or something big one of these days with this project. But you'll hear about it very soon.
Wow, you'll hear it here first.
Yeah.
I know you're kind of also working on a project related to Cambodian hot pot. Is this something that you can tell us about?
Okay, so if you love hot pot and you have a Cambodian friend, ask them to make some yahan for you. So, hot pots are great. Koreans make really great hot pots. Japanese, shabu is really great. Thais have some hot pots. You've never heard of Cambodian hot pot because nobody's ever done it before. And so, this is something that if, when you say Christmas, this is what we had for Christmas, or when you say Thanksgiving, this is what we eat for Thanksgiving. We didn't eat turkey. We had yauhan.
Wow.
And it's a Cambodian style hot pot. And so it's like a community thing where, this big boiling pot and then you dip your meats in and things like that. But nobody's ever taken this concept out of their home. So I'm working on this collaboration with the Japanese restaurant with one of my Korean friends who runs the place. And so we're doing like something like a yauhan experience and showcasing what a modern look at this concept could look like in a really nice place. And so that's still in the works right now. I'm working out the kinks with that one here. But if you're in the city of Irvine and you hear about this thing, you should definitely pull up and try it out because Cambodian hot pot is really, really good. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess with all the amazing projects that you're working on, people will probably...
Yeah, I told you I would do food again. Here's another one. Oh my goodness.
I know. Yeah. So if people want to keep tabs on all the food projects that you're working on, where can they find you on social media? Like you as the person.
Oh, you me as a person. You can find me at Johnny Bones. The Bones is spelled with a 0. Follow me and you'll see all the crazy stuff. I'm a madman, I guess. Yeah.
All the food projects.
The food project and all my shenanigans that I do.
And finally, for us to close the episode, I just have one last question for you, Johnny. To you, what does it mean to be proudly Cambodian American?
It means that I got it out the mud. It means more to me to break through than it could mean for anybody else because of what our people went through. And so we're starting from the ground. They say, they left our people buried in the dirt, but they didn't know that we were seed, and I'm that seed.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and tell us all about your food projects and Cambodian cuisine.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for this episode of Proudly Asian. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at proudly.asian for more content. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in and signing off for now. I'm Isabel Wong.